Alright gang, Kevin here. So we showed you guys wiring in a previous video, or the different types of wire, and we still have some of our chunks left over, so I just slid the other part of the jacket off here. A little scrap bin here of just junk that we got laying around, and I like to fidget, and you know how it goes. But so we got a pile of junk there, got this extra wire right here, and we're going to show you how to wire in an outlet, and then we're going to show you how we have... Normally, this Romex would have stuck out of a box coming out of your wall, right? And that's not the application in the next video, how we're going to actually install this. We're just going to show you how to wire it today. So you're assuming these wires are coming out of the wall, and most likely they're coming out in Romex, maybe they're cloth wrap wire, your house is older, what have you. But for my purposes, since I'm tying these into metal conduit boxes, we're going that route. So now you've got a series of, and sorry, I was not prepped. I am ill prepared for this. So I like to buy client hand tools. So there's a series of ones. We showed you these ones a minute ago on how to strip the jacket of the wire with these. I'm using those two, and then you can strip the ends of your wire with these two. And as you can see, stranded wire versus solid wire. So these aren't going to be good for when I do the THHN, because I've got 12 gauge wire on both the Romex and the other one, so I can only do up to solid stranded of 12, or solid 12 gauge wire and stranded of 14 gauge wire. So I'm not big enough to do the stranded 12 gauge wire with these. But I always have a whole series of them. So I like using these little guys because they're nice and light, and you can kind of do some jig work, you know, like use these like needle nose and kind of do what you have to do with these. They're not as good as a set of needle nose. Now these, on the other hand, typically these are nice because they've got the linements built into the front of them, which are very handy. And these, as you can see, mine get some abuse, and they go outside and they live in a backpack that is not moisture free. But as you can see, these are my solids, and I can do up to 10 gauge wire in solid with these. And then if you flip them over, I can do up to 12 gauge stranded, STR stranded with those. And then plus you have your little dikes right here. You can nip your wire. You can insert two different types of crimps or shear wire. So if you have 830, oh, now it's not focusing. Focus, damn you. Oh, there it is. Tracking. Boom. Oh, now it's tracking. Tracking cancel. I'm working on a new camera, so it's tracking items now. So, anyways, oh yeah, and I forgot to mention these, and then you've got these nice little auto. Oh, yeah, I touched the camera to get it. So you got these auto crimps right here. And so what you do is you line your wire up, and you say, if you look at the back of an outlet, it'll tell you where they want the wire bare. So they usually give you a little guide right there, and it says bare wire. And then you can kind of hold it up. I gotta deal with a child real quick. You gotta love little kids. So anyways, so they give you what they want you to strip the wire to. Usually on the back of every one of these, it might not be in the same spot, but they give you a nice spot on how to handle it. So I have 12 gauge. If you read the top of your chart there. So these are my solids on the bottom, as you can tell, because if it fits the 12 and it's a 14, that means it's got to be stranded. So you put your finger at the mark in which they told you on your die, and eventually you just eyeball it. Oh, you know, I don't use these that often. So with these, it's a little fancier than that. Once you've lined up your whatever hole you have to keep it in, 12, you go right to the end of that wire, and that crimps it in place. And then what happens is you squeeze these, and it's like I knew what I was doing. A little longer than I like it. A little longer than I like it, but what I like to do is you match it up to your back here. This is for the novices. Yeah, I doubled it. Use those dikes right on there. Flip it off. There you go. Somebody's going to tell me I'm wasting. I like to always use a nice set of needle nose pliers, and then you're going to put a curl in your wire. Nice little hook. Nice little hook in your little crook in your wire. So now, Ideal, a company that I like to also use, but I prefer Klein. But Ideal makes some good tools. They have a patent on this one. I believe this is the combo drive. So essentially, it's if you ever look at the side of the front here, this screw, or the sides here, it's like a number 2 square or number 1 square drive. It's a flathead or it's a Phillips. Well, this combo fits in there perfectly like a key. And that makes this so much easier because tendency, these are usually cheaper on almost every outlet you get, and they strip, especially if you're using a Phillips. The flatheads seem to hold up a little better, and the square drive is always the best, but the combo gives you even better than the number 2 or the number 1 square. I'd have to line them up to double check. So once you've got your outlets, once you've got your wires stripped, boom, look at that, perfect that time. And you don't have to strip your ground if you're using bare ground, and it doesn't matter if you're doing bare ground in your typical outlet, because you're most likely homeowner using using the others, using Romex. So if you look at these outlets, so gold is your hot. Rule of thumb: gold is your hot, silver is your neutral. And if you forget the silver, white. The gold, if you're thinking this is a white wire, which one should I tie it to? The silver, which is close. I would assume silver is closer to white than gold is. Gold is more of a yellow, right? So that's how I always remember it. These two are always. I always like to tighten these screws down. If say I'm only going into one outlet. If I'm going, this is the last outlet on this run, right? I'm not jumping, and that's what'll happen here. And I keep forgetting you guys don't know that much, or if you do, then you can just forward through this video, or you're probably not watching this if you know. So right here you've got there's this tab here. This is your neutral side, so you can tie in a neutral coming in and a neutral going out, and unless you want to make them independent, right? Like one maybe operates off of a switch where the other one always has power, you can break this tab right here. And you do that on both sides, the neutral and the hot side. Or you come in with power and neutral in one side, and they jump together on the other, and then it goes off to another outlet, and this outlet becomes the middle of a connection. So, and then your ground obviously is green right here on the bottom. And so what we're going to do is we're going to tie in our neutral, and we only have one, so this is just going to be a pretty simple explanation. Once you tie your neutral in, you're going to tighten that down, and you're going to notice here, you're going to have your hook go in counter, going in, because you're going to spin it clockwise, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. You're going to tighten that down, and as you see, as I tighten that down, it draws it in to it. If you have it in the reverse direction, it'll actually open. It has the potential to open up that hook and not make a good strong connection. And now that's nice and tight and nice and strong, and we're going to move on to the hot. Now, depending on the outlets you buy, if you're using stranded wire, which we'll be doing here soon, I will be doing it when I do another outlet. What I like to do is I like to sometimes if you buy better ones, like this is a 15 or 20 amp outlet, so you typically won't see the one with a T here. you'll just see 2 straights, which is your 15 amp outlet. I'm doing 20. I'm doing this in my chicken coop. My entire chicken coop has 12 gauge wire run through it, so I just figured, screw it, we're going with a better plug. I want something that's rated for 20 amps. I want to be able to plug in something that's 20 amps if I have to, and it's just a better outlet. Plus, these, when you go better, there's a little tab right here. If I don't know, well, let's see if you can see it. For the hot, that tab right there that's sliding up and down tightens with the screw. That is if we had stranded wire. You would just jam your stranded wire under it. You could probably put your solid wire under it too, and then tighten the screw down, and it would clamp it in place. Typically, I do that with stranded only, and when I'm doing solid wire, I put the hoop in. It's just how I do it. I'm sure you could do it differently, but the stranded wire is going to have more surface area to bite when it's being compressed, versus the solid, you know, that could just slide right out, and this hook gives it better bite. But depending on what kind of wire you're dealing with, most people are going to deal with solid wire, so this is the way to dizzily do it. And then obviously we have our black line, and that is our hot, and we'll tie that into the gold side. Some people remember what side is which. I always just look at the screws, which is probably not the best way to do it. And that one right there, nice and tight. There's our hot in neutral, and we went over this in the last video. You plug something in, it draws the hot up through your light bulb, back down to the neutral, back to its home, and the ground is our backup neutral. It is our safety. It is grounding, you know, any of the metal boxes, any metal conduit. It is anything that is in its path is getting grounded. If you have a metal box, when you're tying this in, you're using something old in your house, you know, maybe you have an old metal box and it doesn't have a ground system in it. It doesn't hurt when you're tying this in, or maybe it doesn't. Maybe nobody ever grounded the box. You should add the ground wire. Should be mounted to the box, the grounding system, and the plug. And then, yeah. And sometimes if you make your hoop not tight enough, you just get around there. And it's tough to do this while trying to also show you. Get around there and then grab your needle nose pliers and make her bite her own tail. There you go. And then I like using this one. Like I said, I like using this one. You can, if you, whatever screwdriver you have. I know some old timers that use barrel crimps, barrel crimp dikes, and they'll use them for pretty much everything, strip and wire. If you don't have the special jacket remover for Romex, which it's hard to carry so many tools. A lot of us have pocket knives on us. You just strip this right down the middle and peel it back like a banana. So that's another way of stripping the wire. But right there, now, rule of thumb, I will use electrical tape because it's cheap and easy to wrap. Because it depends, you know, you don't know how old the box is. The older boxes are really tight. Maybe you're dealing with a GFI, and it gets a fatter outlet, and you got limited space to work with. And the potential with those little studs just sticking right out right there, you could bump it left or right, spark it, scare the crap out of yourself, ground out something. Essentially, that's how arc welding works, and you don't want to be welding. So normally I would take electrical tape, and you got to sneak it through these little screws, and you wrap it around. I usually do 2 wraps to make sure I'm good. And I actually just bought these, and you're actually watching me put this on for the first time. These were about 40 cents a piece, and I have a feeling it's going to save a lot more time and look a lot more professional than, and probably last longer. And maybe even be reusable than electrical tape. So electrical tape is way cheaper, but it is a little bit more of a pain in the butt, and you won't be able to reuse it. You won't be able to... One second, buddy. Sorry, got 4 kids. They're going to come in. You won't be able to reuse it like you can with these, and... I don't think this is horrible for my first time, but it's definitely working a little bit slow for me right now. But once you get the hang of it, I'm sure it is. Oh wow, yeah, that is. I like that. It does a nice little conform fit. You can adjust it as necessary. Electrical tape, once it's on there, it's on there. You got it, and then you peel it off and you throw it away. That actually looks really nice, and it's very handy. And so typically your next step from here is you're going to put a nice little bend in your wires. I'll be right with you. You tell them to get with them in a minute. They never listen. So you're gonna put a bend in your wires before it goes. Oh, I bent this a whole bunch of times, but I like to put a nice little bend in my wires before it goes back in the box, and then you have nice space and you crimp your wires back right there. You don't have to worry about kinks or nothing. I mean, unless it's got metal fatigue, so if you bend it, and eventually they break, especially if they get older and the fatigue of the heat from the electricity going through it. But then once you push it back, it's on the box. Your box should have 2 screw holes at the top and the bottom, and then you take your nice little thing and you tighten it down. And this is also a backup ground, because even though it's connected to this, the ground of the box and the grounding system, this tab is your ground as well, and that's also making connection with your box. And then obviously you throw your standard wall cover on there, and there's a little flathead screw, and you tighten it down right there, and boom, you're ready to go. So that's one outlet. I'm going to generate a couple more, and I'm going to show you how we put them on, how we would modify them to go on an electrical conduit. Thanks for watching, guys. Like, subscribe, and comment below. Let us know what you think. Let us know if there's something I screwed up. Maybe I have to clarify for you. Maybe you have questions. I love answering questions. So thanks, guys.